My name's John Curran, and I'm a work-life balance coach. And what I do is I work with entrepreneurs to help them in areas like time management, focus. A lot of times entrepreneurs have issues with focus, that sort of thing. A lot of times they have issues with feeling overwhelmed, because when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, you're on your own. You're going from being employed by, say, a company, a large company, to being on your own. So there's challenges that go along with that. And in the beginning, for a lot of entrepreneurs, they feel very overwhelmed. So I work with them to help them get unstuck and to get their time management under control. That's the big issue. I originally did my training out in Toronto. I got certified as a practitioner and then as in what's called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It's basically just studying how people behave in terms of their communication styles and learning how to be able to interact with people in a very effective way. And then I went on and got my certification as a master coach. And then recently I've been getting training out in San Diego. I've been flying out there a number of times. And got training in accountability, certification in that, and also training as a strategy coach. And the last part of the training is called an assessment, where we take a look at various businesses of various individuals. And the assessment gives us tools on different aspects of what drives people, motivationally speaking, with their values and their beliefs and things like that. And by understanding that and debriefing the clients on that process, they're able to actually get a lot of insight into why they do the things they do and why they don't do the things they do, and what motivates them, what may be causing them to feel stuck, and that sort of thing. The life coach is really a trusted advisor, somebody that is looking out for your best interests as a client. And the other issue with a life coach is the life coach, people, even though they are a trusted advisor and and then they're in a consultative role, they also really work with knowing the right questions to ask their clients, having the clients discover the right answers for themselves, because that's more valuable. When somebody has what we would call a breakthrough moment or a transformational shift in mindset, that's much more valuable than if I just give you the answer. If you ask me a question and I give you the answer, you might say, oh, well, that sounds like that could be it. And that's valuable to some degree, but when you have the breakthrough and you discover that for yourself, it's much more powerful, because you own it now and it's emotional, and you're more likely to follow through on actions, versus if somebody gives you the answer, tells you what to do, you're likely not maybe to do it initially. You might say, well, that's a nice idea and maybe I'll get around to doing that. But if you come to your own conclusions and you have a breakthrough, you're like, wow, I had no idea. And basically that's again where a coach comes in, because we all have blind spots. So even somebody famous like Tony Robbins or other people, just any average person, we all have blind spots. Whether you're famous, whether you're just an average guy or gal on the street, and a coach will help illuminate or shed some light on those blind spots. The analogy I like to make to help people really understand it at a deep level is like if I took a flashlight and shined it in areas of your brain or your mind where you had some darkness, and all of a sudden I put some light there, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I see now something I didn't see before. And all of a sudden that's when usually people will have breakthroughs or transformational shifts. And then they'll be like, oh my God, I had no idea I was like doing this. It was at a very deep, like subconscious level, because most of what we do as human beings is very habitual, and we function out of the conscious mind most of the time. But we do things unconsciously too that we're not even aware of. Things where we'll sabotage ourselves, and we'll have like one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, and we wonder why the car's not moving. Well, it's because we got to take our foot off the brake and release, resistance and that sort of thing. We got to look at where there's some gunk. A lot of times there's gunk inside. I like to call it like emotional gunk, and we go in and we clean it out. We go in and figure out where those blocks are, because generally if you can see where the blocks are, you can go in and there's some specific strategies and tools and technology and techniques to release those blocks. And once those blocks open up, all of a sudden it's like a whole new world to a person that was like, seeing one perspective. Now all of a sudden, they're able to see their life from, say, the 50,000-foot view versus being right on the tarmac and being in the midst of everything, because it's difficult to see the trees through the forest, so to speak. Great question. There's a lot of confusion about that in terms of, would people hear about life coaches versus, say, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and a doctor, and the therapist. And the big distinction is that the life coach works with a person where they are right now and brings them forward. That's the key distinction. The therapist, a doctor, will typically work from the past. They'll go back into the past and then work on moving them forward. Now, in some cases, clients may come to us where they might be more appropriately outsourced to a trained professional in psychology or therapy or that sort of thing, depending on what the situation is. But it certainly wouldn't be uncommon for somebody that's seeing a therapist and under medication to also work with a coach. Once they get the clearance from their doctor to say, hey, the person's been with me for a year or two and they're stable on their meds, but I really think they could get a lot out of working with a life coach. And so at that point, maybe they're ready. So it can go either way. But the big misconception is the fact that people think that life coaches are therapists, and we're not. I mean, there are some life coaches who do go on to get their PhD in psychology and therapy and that sort of thing. But I would say probably a larger percentage of life coaches have come from backgrounds like, they say, lawyers, maybe authors, could be speakers, could be inspirational speakers, all different walks of life. You'd be amazed at the type of demographics that you see in the scope of life coaching. So yeah, it kind of varies, but that's the key thing. Is just that people need to understand that, and it's all confidential. That's another question that comes up oftentimes as well. Is it confidential? Of course, it very much is. I mean, with life coaching, it doesn't legally come along with the same confidentiality clauses per se as clergy and therapists and things like that. But we certainly, as life coaches, are respectful of our clients and treat confidentiality the same way. And again, if we have somebody that comes to us who is more appropriately served by going to, say, a therapist, then we'll certainly do that, and vice versa. So we have, relationships with various trained professionals in different areas. My typical client is usually self-employed professionals, people like entrepreneurs, but it could be, Joe's Pizza Shop. Maybe the guy comes in and he's like, hey, I'm just getting my business started. I need some outside help on this, and I need somebody to advise me, somebody that I can know, somebody that I feel comfortable with and I can trust, and that will really give it to me straight, and will kind of hold me accountable when I need to be accountable. Because one big piece of coaching, in addition to strategy, I mean, I can work with a business owner, for example, and I can give him strategy all day, but the other piece to the puzzle, even if I gave him all the strategy all day, if I don't hold him accountable and he doesn't have somebody that he's accountable to, then chances are a lot of times he won't follow through on the actions he knows he needs to take. So the reality is, we'll often do things more for other people than we will for ourselves. It's sad, but it's true. I mean, and whether it's having a workout buddy or that, but it's the same idea. It's just that the difference is, of course, is that you're paying somebody now. And this isn't just a friend, this is actually somebody trained in life coaching that's, on your side, that's basically there to support you. So the relationship is all in your favor, because you're paying them for results. And, and that's part of the idea with the accountability, because as coaches, we have certain techniques and ways that we, keep on people, but we do it in a nurturing way. I mean, every coach is a little different. With some clients, they probably would respond better to the drill sergeant approach, versus more of a nurturing. So you have to kind of get a feel for the client. I mean, if I'm working with a woman that, let's say, has self-esteem issues, which some of my clients, I've worked with, clients like that, where I had one woman in Canada who had her own, she was a life coach, was a relationship coach, and had some issues in the area of self-esteem. So once I worked with her and got her to bring her self-esteem up, then she was able to charge the appropriate prices for her good services because she was great at what she did, and she just needed a little more belief. So it can go from anywhere from that. A lot of times I work with people that are stuck. Stuck is probably, I put that in big, bold, neon letters. It seems like a lot of people are just stuck. The reason they're stuck is because it's like a paralysis analysis type thing. They're just intellectualizing things to death, and they just need to get moving. But they need somebody to see things that they're not. Usually when they're stuck, it's because you're in the thick of things, and you're not able to see with the same insight somebody is from the outside, especially somebody trained. Because you might say, well, can't my friend Joe give me, advice? Yeah, sure he can, but he isn't trained as a life coach. A life coach is trained in strategy, accountability, assessment. I mean, all different coaches have different levels of certification. But from my experience, what I typically do is I'm always continually getting new certifications and training. So it's always continuous and never-ending improvement, as with Tony Robbins is kind of, famous for coining that phrase. But it's true. The learning never stops. I mean, when we graduate from college, it's commencement, meaning beginning. We're beginning to, embark on our new learning. It's just another level of learning. So we're all at one point in our life students, and we're all at some point when we move further along become mentors, role models, and teachers for other people. So that's the beauty of it. And whatever level you're at, even somebody like Tony Robbins, he has, when he has challenges, he goes to the best. He finds somebody that's the best, and he can afford to. At this point, money is no issue for him, for he can get the best he wants. But even someone like him, he recognizes that he has areas where he's not as strong in as he could be. So he'll find the best of the best, and he'll ask that person, what exactly do you do? And he'll go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and it might be 50 steps that he comes out with. And then he'll just duplicate that, and he'll watch the physiology, and he'll watch the belief system that person have, and he'll basically just take that and just incorporate that in his life. So you can learn a lot from various people, depending on what your particular interest is and your talents and that sort of thing. That's a great question. I mean, success is always a very personal thing for each person. One person may define success in one way. Like, for example, some people may measure success in terms of a lot of money and material, prominence and things like that, and maybe fame and fortune, whether even Hollywood or somewhere else. But to me, anyway, I think success is more about significance. It's more about purpose, having some purpose in your life, and making a difference in other people's lives. When you can uplift other people, when you can bring the best out in other people, to me, that's something money, that's my definition of success, is being, is really leaving the world better by you being here, and whether it's writing a book, whether it's working with somebody that's down and out, that needs some, inspiration and some counseling and some help and whatnot, and bringing them up, and just to know that you were part of that process, and that, you made a difference, that, 100 years from now, when none of us are here, there'll be something left behind, whether it be video, whether it be, a book we wrote, or maybe some life that we touched. And I think, to me, that is more a definition of success. Certainly, I would say success is, you want to have balance in the physical, emotional, financial, spiritual, and relational areas. And that's what we all aspire to. But I think a lot of it is when you get to a certain level of success, it starts to become bringing out the best in others and leading others. Like John Maxwell is one of my heroes, one of my favorites, who is a leadership expert, and he talks about the 5 levels of leadership and how, you know, as you move up and you hit level 4 and level 5, you're at a point now where the money isn't an issue anymore, where you're starting to train and develop the new future leaders. That, you know, and so you get more juice out of that and watching them grow, because it's like planting seeds all over the place, and then, you know, you don't know which one of those seeds are going to germinate and what's it going to look like, but when they come back to you and you could see them, wow, that person is somebody I worked with 10 years ago, and look at them now, they're like leading this huge organization because, you know, of something that, you know, of time I spent with them, mentoring them, let's say, and working with them. So to me, that's my definition of success. That's a great question. What I would do is, it's personal for each client, but it would be about starting out with setting the 3 top goals and then looking at windows of time. Like typically, some people think it can be instant, you know, success, but the reality is it takes time. It could be 3 months, could be 6 months, could be a year. And so what we do is we take a look and say, okay, we're at the 3-month mark now. These are your 3 top goals. Which ones? Okay, what have you accomplished? And then look at where they were and where they are now. And really, the beauty in it is, I mean, we could look at numbers. I mean, in terms of working with a business owner, for example, one easy measurement would be, well, you know, did I help you double your income? That's an easy measurement, right? But what's probably more important than the financial side of it is actually who they become in the process. Because that person that you worked with is not the same person 3 months from now, and 6 months from now, and a year from now, and 2 years from now, depending on how long you work with them. And so it's who they become, really. And you can, you know, and so that's one measurement. The other measurement is having them hit the target. Like, they decide for themselves, well, okay, what are your top 3 goals? And did you hit those targets? If not, okay, well, where do we come up short, and where can we make some course corrections? Think of it like a GPS in your car. I plugged in my GPS to get here, and it got me pretty much here, but then it failed me towards the end. But generally, they work pretty well for the most part. And the life coach is much the same way, where people will be off course in their life, so to speak, as sort of an analogy to this. And once you're able to dial in where you want to go, then the coach helps you course correct. Because you're going to run amok, we're human beings, and we're just not programmed that way. So the life coach kind of brings you back into alignment. So all of a sudden, if you're going way off course, he can bring you back, say, okay, in a good way, through the accountability, through strategy, through you know, just looking at areas where you have maybe darkness, where you're kind of like have blind spots, is what I'm saying. And you bring them back in, and then they're like, oh yeah, I see now. And pretty soon, you get them to a point where things are happening naturally. Because your goal really is to get them to develop habits. And once they, you know, initially it was thought about 21 days to develop a habit. Now it's they say about 30. Studies coming out of NASA are saying it really takes about 30 days to develop a habit. So once you have a repetitive action over a period of 30 days, embedded in what we call the neural networks in the brain. And it's like you getting up and having your coffee in the morning and brushing your teeth, and it's the same idea. Once you get that embedded, it just becomes part of you, and then you're doing it subconsciously. And that's the beauty, that's where all the power in us is within us, is within the subconscious. We can't see that, you know. And so with the coach is able to kind of get you to tap into that part of your brain, because most of us function on automatic pilot. You know, we get up to work and do our routines and whatnot. So the coach really helps to kind of get you to find the genius within each one of us, because we all have it. It's like this vein of gold that we sometimes have tough time accessing. and you sort of like having a combination on a lock. Life coach helps you kind of unlock, find the necessary numbers and necessary you know, ingredients, whatever you want to call it, to unlock that mystery. Well, what I would tell you is start off with doing a free session with a coach, because you got to make sure that you know the synergy there, and that you connect, and that you're speaking from the same sheet of music, so to speak, and that you're of the same mindset, and that you could see that the coach has been trained well, you know, that they have the necessary credentials, and that that you feel like they're actually able to cause some transformation in even a single coaching call. And I oftentimes there'll be transformation in the single coaching call, but I try to explain to people that even though that can occur, it still does take time for, you know, results to happen. And really what you want to be looking for is the results, because really my credentials are the results I produce. I can have all these wonderful PhDs and all these wonderful certifications and credentials, but at the end of the day, what really matters is what kind of results can I produce for you as a client. And I got to know what really is what you know, find out what you're really after, because sometimes what you think you're after isn't really what you're after. You're after working with a life coach, sometimes your priorities change, and you're realizing, well, you know, maybe I'm chasing after the wrong prize here. Maybe I'm going after the wrong goal, and maybe I need to like reassess my life depending on what age you're at. And so a life coach is just like invaluable. I mean, the thing is you know, you want to make sure that you're getting, that person's going to get you the results that you're looking for. I would say if you were going to, and make sure, you know, make sure that you could do your due diligence, check them out and all that, and see who they've worked with and so on. But generally, use your intuition, and then use the analytical side of your brain. So it's you'll know. I mean, I think you'll know. But the other thing you can do is you can test out a couple. I mean, a lot of them offer free sessions. So test out a couple. And I would say the one who shines is the one, it's going to be like so obvious to you that, okay, this is the guy or this is the girl coach that I should be working with, because not everybody is for everybody. Not, you know, some coaches are a good fit for some people. The drill sergeant type are for a certain type of people, maybe nurturing accountability, maybe for another type, depending on the personality. So it's got to be kind of a blend of personality. Obviously, you got to have confidence that they can really help you and that they have your best interest at heart. That's the biggest thing.